This is Billy Cut. This is Billy Bubba Delray Dinkins with your Atomic Speedway update. The outtakes. So y'all know me. I'm a bit of an artist, and I know a few folks. Musicians and folk with that artistic bent. You know, maybe they're not as fine at oration as me, but they're a singer. And then I got my buddy Mark. It won't profit you none to try and find that feller, 'cause he's just a figment of my imagination. Only the people that were there will know whether this story is true or not. So, my buddy Mark, he was a good looking feller. He's tall. He's got a job. He's got purty eyes. He owns 4 pair of shoes. Well, he looks like quite the catch. So, old tall Mark here, we had this thing going. He could not talk worth nothing, no small talk. He just, hey, look at his toes, all shut. Which, could work for him sometimes. I mean, he's a good looking feller. And, but I was the one with the small talk. Hey, how's it going? What are y'all doing this weekend? We're going up the mountain. Yeah, big party. Yeah. Like me and a friend of mine, we got 30 pounds of ice between us. 44. That's right. Colt 45s and 44 pounds of ice. Yeah, low-brow and highbrow. Who knows? Yeah, we were in a chalet. Oh, yeah. We might be up there for a month. you know. Yeah. My buddy here's going with it. Oh, yeah. The mechanic. Yeah. Shane, Marty. Oh, yeah. Oh, you know. So I would get the satellite women that didn't fly in on him. I had a target rich environment and ladies that were already listening to what I was saying. Still, boy, had a plan. Like, I didn't know when times would be good or bad, but I had a plan for both. Both of them. Both of us. Yeah. So, we're at this art show, and in the middle of the art show this weekend, there's a fashion show. Well, Mark, he's hooked up with this musician, and like the musician girlfriend is also an artist. She has some art in his art show, and her sister has some fashion, some clothing designs in the fashion show. So here I am with my girlfriend, in the row behind him, and she's awesome, and totally unrelated to our previous arrangement, Mark and I. And about halfway through the fashion show, my girl leans forward and says to Mark, hey Mark, so what do you think of the fashion show there, buddy? Well, Mark is about as country as a tree. He said, you know what there, hon? I really don't know nothing one end from the other about fashion. And most of this is really lost on me. But I can tell you that last one right there, that bitch was in heat. And it was a dude. That's what's up. Oh, I told you that story to tell you this one. I was already thinking of that story. And then This young lady walks up the street. Man, can she walk? She can run too. She jogs every morning at 6 a.m. no matter the weather, the temperature, the condition of the surface. I mean, like if there's ice on the road, she puts on crampons and goes like she's ice climbing down the hill. I mean, it's just, she's an amazing person. Uh, if you could bottle that sort of discipline and determination, man, you'd be richer than Google. So she's walking up the street, and I mean, she's got them yoga pants that are like painted on. There's these two fellas I know walking down the street, and they notice. And the one dude, he about breaks his neck spinning around to get a second look. I mean, he probably knows those are yoga pants and, recognizes that that's a sweater she has on as a top, but he doesn't know if that's called a cardigan or a whatever. He don't know. All he really knows is that bitch is in heat. Dang. Woo. I mean, he had to. I mean, he was compelled. He stopped dead going downhill, turned his head around in the street. No stealth mode about it. Like he took a deep breath, stopped and looked and gazed with his eyes. I mean, Valentine's Day, baby. That man was in love. She looks like she could fall in love too, man. Oh, to be 21. See what's truly twisted about the universe is that when you're 21, you got all the energy and gusto and stamina and discipline and determination to conquer the world and have the most beautiful things flock to you because you've earned them out of merit and kindness. The problem is you don't figure out what the hell to do until you're in your 40s. Hell, you don't even know what you're halfway good at till you're almost 30. That's the big joke of the world, of the universe. I mean, you look at me, all right? I weigh 340 something pounds. 347, I think, the last weigh in. So 350 pounds. And I don't get this from fast food. I get this from slow cooked, home cooking. I cook it food. I mean, I can cook. Like, trust the fat man about eating because I'm an expert. I have an educated palate. Like I can smell the difference between capers and olives when somebody cracks open the jar. You can blindfold me 20 feet away, and I'm like, oh, capers from Milan. I've eaten some good stuff, brother. That's right. Like, I got food that's so good it'll make you sad. Like, I wish I'd had this 5 years ago. I wish my grandpappy could have tried this barbecue. Like, I make people see visions of their past when they eat my food. Culinary arts, part of being an artist. If you can paint and you can't cook, you need to look into your soul a little bit because you're not feeding yourself to be a better artist, to paint. You want to inspire your mind with every possible input and then show that to the world. Maybe a very narrow source of input, but bring in the humor and the taste and the good company and great conversations, all the good things that don't make you crazy. Maybe some that make you a little bit crazy. Because I think uh, mental health is the ultimate expression of art. Uh, Dom DeLuise wrote a book with all his mother's recipes, and the title of it was "Eat This, It'll Make You Feel Better," something like that. Somebody fact check that for me, Jamie. Story time with Uncle Goat. I think somebody's texting me here. My apologies. Pardon the interruption. This might be impotent. Nope. Who are you, Jacob? Uh, maybe. Who are you looking for? I mean, like, I give away my bookmarks and stuff at Taco Bell. I mean, who knows who has my, and the way I lose stuff, like, one of my calling cards for my art, my mural painting business, it might have fell out of my pocket in the parking lot. I'm not exactly organized when it comes to my business endeavors. Who are you? Okay, maybe. Who are you looking for? Goat? Also known as Chris. The artist. T-Mod. The master of disaster. I'm all of that. Oh man, you have wasted more than 12 minutes of your time watching this. The artist. The master of. I think I should change that to Maestro of Disaster. What do you think? The monster of disaster. The Maestro. Or the Maestrati. What does that mean? I should look that up. Master. I just started spelling words began with M. If you listen to me, it's your own damn fault. This is on your laptop, phone, or computer or other pad kind of device right now. At 13 and a half minutes of your time wasted in this space-time universe, baby. You're working for me, effectively. I'm all that. That bitch is in heat. So me and my buddy Bill Baylog, another dirty old man, he's the gray. Oh no, I'm sorry, the silver fox. Y'all should send a shout out and some happy thoughts and prayers his way. All right, he had a stroke about 2 months ago. Good feller. So we have, actually, he's not that good. He's a bit of a prick, but we love him anyway. Ah, ah. He's got that old man growl about him. Ah, yeah, who gives it? Yeah, so we did this thing. Like, we know so many old man jokes and dirty jokes, and who knows, religious and blasphemous jokes, and also everything, you name one liners and 3 day stories. I'll tell you the punchline next month. You know, so we to where like we had jokes that would apply to all sorts of social situations. We would see something in a park or while rabbit hunting or in a bar or at a wedding or funeral for that matter. And it would remind us of a joke because that's how our brains are wired. And rather than telling the whole joke, we would just say the punchline, sometimes only half of the punchline to each other, like, old lady with a sore tooth. And we was just die laughing. Ah! The punchline is, so where's that old lady with the sore tooth? And we'd edit that down to lady with a sore tooth. Woo! That's where it's at, baby. That time and that space, when you're there with that other person, you make that kind of connection to where you laugh until you cry. Like it's hard to catch your breath. Like you have to stop laughing because you have to reprioritize to breathe. And then to start the laughing off again, you double snort laugh in and out. Like all sorts of health concerns come to the surface. Did my appendix just rupture? That's how hard you're laughing. Like your belly doesn't ache. Like your left knee aches. Like how did that? What's going on over there? hold the train. What the hell? Oh, it's good to have remembrance, you see, because I laughed until I cried, snort laughed, like maybe overstressed, some acid reflux. I laughed so hard just thinking about a friend of mine and a time and a space we shared together. And I think that's what human endeavor is all about. Me and you and them and us, because it's all about us. We're all human beings. Even the people we don't agree with, we need to make sure that they get a chance to speak too, because they might be radical and out there according to what you think, but maybe not everything you think is anywhere close to correct. Not everything. And maybe this radical may be a waste of time listening to them, but every now and then, this radical person is radically right, radically correct, spot on, bullseye, dead center of exactly what everybody needs to hear right now. They say a great politician tells you what you need to hear and what you need done and a plan for how to get there. A popular politician tells you what you want to hear and what you would like to be done, what you would like the world to look like. Those are both some goals worth striving for, all of that. However, farmers produce beautiful things out of some ugly dirt and crap and bad weather and ugly sweat and bloody injuries and tears, long hours, personal sacrifice. It takes a lot of ugly to make that beautiful head of broccoli. That's what I think art is. You cannot, you want to protect your children. I get this. Um, but some of the reasons why I appreciate the bright, beautiful things in the world are because of the dark things I have seen and experienced and lived through and recovered from. That ache, just, oh, how does a human being just keep going through that horrible dark valley. No light, no hope, no nothing. Oblivion would be better. And yet there is hope. Hope exists for that person in the darkest imaginable place. And to walk out of that and then to show beauty to the world. And that's pretty special. That's a special kind of genius. How are human beings capable of that? How's that guy that got burned alive while 21 being stupid, 21 off trotting around the world with 10 grand in his pocket, he decides he's going to jump a jump rope in Thailand, which is not a euphemism for anything. And that rope is on fire. He's going to, and that did not work out well for him. Then fast forward like 14 years later, and he walked to the South Pole and back on the continent of Antarctica by himself after his burned legs and whole body, oh my God, healed up, like burned ligaments. Oh. And he did it pulling a sled that weighs more than I do. 20, like me in a sled. If the sled and rope and everything weighs 25 pounds, imagine dragging my ass across Antarctica in a sled for 54 days by himself. A tent, food, and fuel. No change of underwear. I mean, this guy, hardcore is not the word. And he had a Special Forces United Kingdom former retired, however you want to put it, explorer doing the same thing right behind him. The pressure's on. An hour into it, he called his wife thinking maybe this is impossible after all. This is the worst idea I've ever had. Sounds to me like it. And he did it. I found out about it on the Joe Rogan podcast. This guy, like, he was burned so badly, he would be a hero just for ever walking again. Because that's what the doctors told him. You'll never walk again like in any sort of normal manner. Like, your knees probably will never bend like, 90 degrees, like, because the ligaments, like, you burned so deep, the ligaments were damaged at your knee joint. Yeah. Like, he's burnt bad enough it doesn't bear thinking about for a lot of people. And this guy, he'd be a hero forever walking again. Forever taking a step up a flight of stairs. That would be a second triumph. And he went from sea level to over 9,000 feet. That's like, by the way, it's up a mountain to get to the South Pole. Yeah. So he's a guy that figured out what he's good at early on. And I think those dark places, you don't want your child to ever go through something like that. If you've ever burned yourself, and I mean, who hasn't, right? But if you know somebody that got burned bad enough to where they had to have skin grafts, and I know a couple, more than a couple. I mean, your world is different forever. Your physical world will never be the same. You know, they burn skin off of other places, lift that skin up, make it make puncture a bunch of little holes in it and stretch it out into this matrix, and then they put that over your burn. So you've got 2 live burns for every burn you used to have if they graft from your own skin. Now they've come a long way. There's this company we used to invest in called Nu Skin. They developed a vat-grown skin where they started out with the stem cells that are present in infant boys' circumcised skin. Yeah. So they could grow that skin in a vat in these sheets, and it was a fantastic graft. Not only for burnt skin, which is what they started out, they also found out it was great for healing ulcers in someone's stomach, or ulcers in their pressure ulcers in their skin, like bed-bound patients. In some cases, it didn't even need to be sewn on. You just debride the wound with some saline, cut out a patch close to the size of the wound, a little bit larger, place it on the wound, you know, in sterile as possible conditions, and then bandage over it. And in 2 days, the skin would attach to the underlying fascia that was on either side of it, of the healthy skin, and would begin to attach to the healing skin, the healing tissue underneath. It's amazing stuff. And not ever recorded to be rejected by any human's body so far. Some of it would even come close to mimicking the level of melanin in the skin surrounding it, so that it wasn't an obvious scar that was much lighter or much darker than the person's skin surrounding it. Unbelievable stuff. So, why am I talking about all that? Because there's a way out. We may not know it. We may not know how it's going to happen, but there's no such thing as false hope. Hope exists. You may be lost enough to where you don't know how to access where that hope is, but hope exists. You just need to find your hope and build from there. I've been in some really dark places. For those of you that don't know, I'll briefly tell you. My father passed away when I was 5. It was about a week before my 6th birthday. He'd been in a car wreck over the winter on the ice, going to bid a job for his HVAC, heating and air conditioning company, and he had a wreck, hit his head, you know, brain damage, and it took him a while to go. And I got to see him before they unplugged him. Yeah, so there. I've been to some dark places. I remember this very well. I believe I remember it accurately, but, you know, the way memory works, is to say, but I can tell you that I remember many, many details that I have not had anyone correct in pretty much 40 years. So I must be pretty close. So yeah, I know some dark places. I grew up in a house that was swarming with depression. Depression was always there. If you didn't have any plans, depression would show up and, you know, take care of whatever else you were going to do the rest of that evening. So let me tell you, hope exists, because I know in at least those particular dark cases, I found hope. faith, spirituality, all of these things contribute. I'm not saying they are the only source, because art and science and imagination, uh, the education, the intelligence that is just possible out of human beings, the fact that there's a Leonardo da Vinci and Elon Musk and Isaac Newton that have existed, a Marie Curie that have graced this world as human beings in our past, that there's a Dolly Parton that can come out of abject poverty and become a millionaire before the age of 30. Now that is amazing. Now it's amazing that there's a Kardashian Jenner that was born into wealth that became the youngest billionaire ever. That is impressive. But to become a millionaire in the 50s, in the deep, dark hollows of East Tennessee, born in the Great Depression, and then go to Hollywood and have hit movie one after another, be a millionaire, and that's after you had a singing career, recording artist that any musician would be envious of. Then you go on to be a Hollywood star. Then you go on to be a Hollywood producer of no small fame. That's the kind of story I'm talking about. That's what hope is. And without the dark places, we would never know how strong hope can be. So, keep the faith, brothers and sisters. Those of you that have not determined a path, let me tell you, hope is never false. Because you say that so and so failed, did they? They kept going until they stopped. Maybe they wanted to stop a billion times before they actually did. That sounds like success to me, because sometimes all you can do is, it hurts so bad, it's all you can do to just let your heart beat one more time. Breathe in one more breath, and you just keep fighting. You just keep fighting. We're in this together. There's only us. There's no us and them. There is love. There's love for you, from me, and it is shared by the universe, baby. By the way, one of my goals in life is to make this arrow hat extremely uncool. I want to make this the uncoolest arrow hat. I want to goatify it. He's goatified. Rabbit trails, man. I mean, in a lot of ways, that's where the real story lies. One artist was criticizing Leonardo da Vinci. I won't tell you his name. I don't even think I know his name now that I think about it. Criticized Da Vinci for all these side roads exploring science, dissecting illegally, immorally, something, dissecting a human body is something that could get you, put under the Pope's jail back in that day. And to take that risk and to do it dozens, perhaps hundreds of times in secret at great risk. Those were rabbit trails in his artistic life. No, absolutely not. That scientific understanding of human anatomy allowed him to create the greatest art. The Mona Lisa is an example of that. I talk about that in depth, and I will do so once again. These are not rabbit trails. Don't do as thou willst. Don't go down a trail that hurts other people, but explore the good things that keep other good things together. those explorations are worthwhile. Those flow states we get into when we're in this passive meditation while we're engaged in some other activity. The zone, when you hit the zone while you're running, and it's almost as if your mind is floating along the road and your body barely even exists. It's functioning, and you can feel individual parts like your feet flexing as your toes and the balls of your feet hit the road. But it would just seem that your mind is just floating along and you're goal oriented and you're thinking about how you're going to make a pizza tomorrow night. Man, that's going to be good. I mean, you're in a whole different space. You know what's going to be awesome? Nice fresh salad with some grated carrots. Oh yeah, a little bit of that honey mustard from that fresh honey from over the hill, and you're just, I mean, you're cruising. Those rabbit trails are not side trips; they're the main attraction. Uh, you need to go see the steel teepee in the desert, man. Uh, because there's a time and a space you need to be and to occupy with your mind, and in those areas, you shine a light on your purpose in life, on your power in life, and you shine a light on the things that you love. And with this, you can pull things together and focus on exactly your calling, your your embodiment of something bigger than yourself. Um, they talk about God level skill or hero level dexterity. You figured something out that the competition is for second place amongst all the regular humans because you have been able to achieve a task like Leonardo da Vinci. And at this point, it is just up to the rest of us to be the best human in the group because he is some superhuman hero in the art world. Untouchable. And if he is touchable, well, then perhaps he's not a near deity in the art world and he's only human. Only one way to find out. Somebody's got to strive to be that good. I'm not saying I'm it. I'd like to be. And that's the political game I play within my own mind, I suppose. I'm my own worst politician. I tell myself sometimes what I want to hear. Sometimes I tell myself what I need to hear. And really, I don't like either one of them. I don't like hearing either one of those things. Yeah, I didn't want to hear that. That's wrong. Oh, yeah, I need to hear that. Oh, man, I hate that. Yeah, that points right at a weakness I need to work on. Oh, I need to stop doing that. Man. Oh, I had forgotten I had that flaw. Man. See, self talk is not just about telling yourself you can do something and that you're good enough and you deserve to have good things and do better things in life. Sometimes self talk is just about the next step and even just recognizing what the next step is. Uh, Sometimes you need to stop what you're doing and work on one of your faults. And the art, the good work that you're working on, whatever it is, I'm doing a pheasant over here. There's black hole eyes behind me. The bridge, and camping on the Jurassic Coast there on the back wall. And there's my plastic bag sculpture I'm working on here. You know, sometimes the good work has to come to a stop because pump your brakes, brother. You need to slow down here before you crash. You need to work on this fault right here. Right here. There's a crack in your character. You need to seal that up before we go any farther and put more stress in that area. And you know where it is, right there. Right there. There's a little fissure right through the, right. And it's got a little side crack that goes over here. You need to work on that fault. You need to shore that up before we continue on with this journey. As a matter of fact, that fault might be the center point of the good work that you're doing, that you were meant to do, that you have a calling, a predisposition, if you will. You were built to solve this fault. Or if it is impossible to totally close it up, you can make it less critical to your journey and your work. You can maybe even make that fault a feature. Sometimes when you're carving a rock, there's a crack in a rock. You're like, I don't know. Like when we were carving Mount Rushmore. That old guy that walked across Antarctica climbed Mount Everest too. He did that. So anyway, so when they were carving Mount Rushmore, Jefferson, who's seen as the visionary, they're carving him. They carved a face up now, and then they figured out this diagonal crack. It wasn't a big deal. Where after they pound on it, carving out Jefferson's face, that crack widened up, and it was obvious. And that whole surface, they just went ahead and pushed it off. It slid off along that fault, and now Jefferson's head is looking up at about 7 or 8 degrees at a different tilt than the other faces of the other presidents on Mount Rushmore. And that accentuates the fact that Jefferson was a visionary, and he was always looking out into the future at how the world and this country should be. So that fault became a feature. And perhaps that's what you need to find in yourself today. Some of you, it's coming on Valentine's Day, and you're like, oh, I'm going to be alone again. Maybe you ought to be alone today. Maybe you ought to be alone and figure out how to be in love with yourself enough to celebrate your good qualities and be honest about your faults and be good about all of it. Be in love with yourself. Be happy all by yourself. And then someone that truly loves you for who you are will show up. They might have been there all along. You just didn't know it. So y'all have a great day and plan to have really good days in the future. It's been Story Time with Uncle Goat. You've wasted almost 3/4 of an hour listening to my voice. I hope it's worth it for all of us. It ain't easy, but I don't think it's that complicated. It's simple, but it ain't easy. All you got to do is rise above your raisins. Nothing to it. It'll take you a lifetime, though. And let's make it a good life and a long one. And prosper and have less pain and more joy every day. That's what I want for you. Y'all be good. Or at least be imaginative. If you can't behave, be creative. Love and peace. Remember, there's only us and no them. We're all in this together.